Hollywood legal battle heads to a New York City courtroom today with a hearing on the lawsuit between actors Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. The U.S. District Judge in the case is holding a video conference on a motion for a protective order.
No, we're like, oh my God, there's
And they score again.
yeah.
Again.
It's like, oh my God, I forgot to tell you something else.
Oh, I think that's cute. You guys are really cute.
I think it's more than cute.
New footage from Justin Baldoni's camp and a new response from Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' side has just heated up this already bitter legal war going on between the stars. Who's telling the truth about what happened on the set of It Ends With Us?
Blake Lively's lawyers are now saying they don't want Brian Friedman to depose her. Girl, you don't get a choice.
Buckle up, everyone, because today we are diving deep into one of Hollywood's most shocking legal battles, Justin Baldoni's massive court victory against Blake Lively. That's right, the beloved actress and fashion icon has found herself in the middle of a storm, and the details are juicier than ever. From secret schemes to explosive courtroom drama, we've got it all.
If I was on the Baldoni side, I'd feel pretty good. I'd feel like, wow, we got almost everything we wanted. I mean, yes, we have, a few things that are attorneys' eyes only, but we stopped the Lively attorneys from being able to unilaterally designate anything and everything. And we now have some grounds where we can push back on them if they over-designate things, such as designating highly personal information that is relevant.
The Times quoted emails and texts allegedly sent by publicists hired by Baldoni, including the line, "We can bury anyone." The New York Times tells CBC News the story was responsibly reported and based on a review of thousands of pages of original documents. On the same day that Baldoni sued the Times, Lively took her harassment claim to federal court and added accusations of emotional and mental distress. Back in the summer, some fans took offense with how Lively promoted the film about a woman making her way out of an abusive relationship.
And get this, one of the most intense moments in the trial was when Justin Baldoni's lawyer personally interviewed Blake Lively in court. Witnesses say the grilling was brutal, with Blake struggling to respond to some of the most damning questions thrown her way. What was revealed in that testimony? Did Blake slip up and expose something she wasn't supposed to? You do not want to miss this one. So grab your popcorn and let's get into it.
Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, grilled on Blake Lively in contentious interview. Brian Friedman was taken to task by Puck's Matt Baldoni, who by the end of their podcast, Baldoni, who by the end of their podcast interview had compared the lawyer to Donald Trump. The comparison was just an aside. I really don't think it was a contentious interview whatsoever. But I do think what's interesting is at the end of the interview, they get Brian Friedman to discuss why he's not settling this case and why his client's not. Also, they talk about the rogue PR agent, Steph Jones, who once, was done doing business with Wayfair, may have coordinated with Blake Lively in the New York Times business. They call it shady.
So what exactly went down? According to multiple sources, Justin Baldoni filed a lawsuit against Blake Lively, alleging some serious accusations, including defamation, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. But the real question is, what led to this explosive showdown?
Appearing separately on the red carpet this summer, co-stars in the blockbuster It Ends With Us were clearly at odds. Now they've filed competing lawsuits. Actor and director Justin Baldoni accuses the New York Times of libel in a December story that reported on allegations by Blake Lively that Baldoni hired a PR firm to try to ruin her reputation. It's a claim echoed by Lively in the sexual harassment complaint she filed against Baldoni in California.
If you look at his complaint, he points out certain text messages that were lifted out of context. For example, there were emojis, there was certain language that was not reported on by the Times.
For years, whispers of tension between Justin and Blake have circulated in Hollywood, but no one ever expected it to come to this. Some insiders claim that Blake had been spreading false rumors about Justin, attempting to tarnish his reputation in the industry. Others say their feud dates back to an undisclosed project that went horribly wrong behind the scenes. While no one can confirm the exact origins of their bad blood, one thing is clear: this legal battle was years in the making.
Blake Lively is presenting it as a fun time for your girlfriends. Wear your floral dresses to the movies. Sort of a Barbie kind of thing. And then you have Justin Baldoni talking much more seriously about the darker elements of the story. And that just fell in line with people who were looking for that to be called out. I think it's mostly just to try and get some of the public sentiment back onto his side. I do think it will work to an extent.
Let's fast forward to the courtroom showdown. Picture this. The tension is high, the media is buzzing, and fans are glued to their screens waiting for updates.
Blake's legal complaint includes a document allegedly from Justin's PR team that lays out strategies on how to protect the director's reputation should the actress and her team, quote, make her grievances public. And one section includes tactics to use if her husband Ryan Reynolds came forward in her defense. In addition to avoiding, quote, direct engagement if this happened, the document also notes that, quote, as part of this, our team can also explore planting stories about the weaponization of feminism and how people in BL's circle like Taylor Swift have been accused of utilizing these tactics to bully into getting what they want. In the same document, Justin's PR crisis management team allegedly proposed that if Blake hinted at her, quote, experience working with him in the press, and a reporter reached out for comment, and it was obvious she was indeed referring to the director, that, quote, speculation can be turned to another one of the many people she's had issues working with in the past.
According to insiders who were present during the proceedings, things got heated. The judge reportedly had some strong words for Blake, calling her alleged actions unacceptable and unprofessional. The verdict? A massive win for Justin Baldoni, as the court ruled in his favor on all counts. Not only was Blake found liable, but she was also ordered to pay a substantial amount in damages, an amount that could very well shake up her career.
In the protective order is security measures taken by parties or third parties. So there was an argument that, there's certain security measures that celebrities take, and to disclose that could harm the people who are taking these security measures. The judge points out that, look, the Wayfarer parties have suggested that security measures are not relevant to this proceeding, but they have not raised objections to such information being kept AEO if it is disclosed. So it's kind of like the judge is thinking, well, they didn't say we couldn't, and they didn't argue against it, so let's just put attorney's eyes only on that.
I heard someone on a different show say that there's two different trials, one in the legal courts, one in the court of public opinion. And one of the things that his attorney is claiming in his complaint was that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds had pressured Justin Baldoni and his team once the film was out and she was getting this negative backlash to put out a statement basically, accounting saying we behaved poorly on this set, there was misconduct, which they refused to do. And I think the thinking behind that might have been, hey, if they put out this statement taking some of the blame, the backlash against her on social media might start to lessen a little bit. They refused to do that, saying we did nothing wrong here. And then I think that's where a lot of the court of public opinion is coming out. And I also think, his complaint against her was 200 pages with tons of text messages, emails. That's fairly long. I haven't seen a federal complaint that long, so I think that's a big part of it.
But here's where it gets even more interesting. A source close to the case revealed that Blake's legal team was completely blindsided by some of the evidence presented in court. Which brings us to the next bombshell. What was this damning evidence that sealed Blake's fate?
Since her legal action, Justin's lawyer Brian Friedman has denounced Blake's claims, telling the New York Times that these accusations were a, quote, desperate attempt to fix her negative reputation, which was garnered from her own remarks and actions during the campaign for the film. Interviews and press activities that were observed publicly in real time and unedited, which allowed for the internet to generate their own views and opinions.
There's been a motion for protective order in the case, and the judge has responded, issuing that order, but with caveats.
Now, this is where things take a wild turn. Justin Baldoni's legal team reportedly presented an overwhelming amount of evidence, including emails, text messages, and even witness testimonies. And the most shocking part? The evidence suggested that Blake had not only been spreading rumors, but had also allegedly been using her influence in Hollywood to sabotage Justin's projects.
Here's what the judge has to say. Blake Lively versus plaintiff, which is Wayfarer Studios, and then we have Wayfarer Studios, plaintiff versus Blake Lively. So they're kind of both suing each other, so it's all in one. Judge Lehman, United States District Judge, whereas all of the, and by the way, he's going to be able to issue like a full protective order or partial, so we're going to have to just see what this is all about. Whereas all of the parties to this action, collectively the parties and individually a party, request that this court issue a protective order pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 26C to protect the confidentiality of certain non-public and confidential material that will be exchanged pursuant to and during the course of discovery in this case. Whereas the parties acknowledge that this protective order does not confer blanket protections on all disclosures or responses to discovery, and that the protection it affords only extends to the limited information or items that are entitled under the applicable legal principles to confidential treatment. Whereas the parties further acknowledge that this protective order does not create entitlement to file confidential information under seal, and whereas in light of these acknowledgments and based on the representations of the parties that discovery in this case will involve confidential documents or information the public disclosure of which will cause harm to the producing person and or third party to whom a duty of confidentiality is owed, and to protect against injury caused by dissemination of confidential documents and information, this court finds good cause for issuance of an appropriately tailored confidentiality order governing the pretrial phase of this action.
Even more jaw-dropping is the claim that a former employee from Blake's team was the one who leaked some of this information. This anonymous source allegedly came forward with screenshots and confidential documents exposing behind-the-scenes conversations that painted a very different picture of the actress. If true, this could have major implications for Blake's future in the industry.
The judge advising both sides to avoid making public statements that could prejudice the proceedings. If not, the judge voiced his ability to move up the trial that's currently scheduled for March of 2026. So at the hearing Monday, Lively's attorneys referenced the website launched by Baldoni's team a few days earlier that contains documents pertaining to the legal battle, including a section titled Timeline of Relevant Events with text messages between Lively and Baldoni.
Now, of course, Blake's team has denied these allegations, but the damage might already be done. And speaking of damage, let's talk about how the world is reacting to this shocking verdict.
But Lively's allegations present a different picture about who is villain and victim in real life. One that Baldoni hopes to muddy with his own libel lawsuit, says this pop culture columnist.
This is from Albertson and Davidson at Law, our lawyer friends here, and they give an update to the protective order that was granted in part by the judge. A lot of people, are wondering who won the protective order that we found out yesterday. Was it Blake's side? Was it Justin's side?
The internet has been absolutely on fire since this news broke. Fans are divided. Some are standing by Justin, praising him for standing up for himself, while others are rushing to Blake's defense, arguing that this is nothing more than an unfair attack on her character.
I don't understand what Blake Lively's lawyers are doing and allowing her to let things like this get out. They only add to the image we've all assumed about her, that she's this entitled, egotistical, higher-than-thou celebrity who will stomp on whoever and do what she pleases.
Celebrities, too, have started weighing in. Ryan Reynolds, Blake's husband, was reportedly furious about the court ruling and has remained tight-lipped about the situation.
Blake Lively scores a win amid her ongoing legal battle against Justin Baldoni. After the Gossip Girl alum and husband Ryan Reynolds applied for a protective order earlier this month to keep sensitive information from circulating to the public, a judge for the Southern District of New York has approved a modified version of the order. In legal filings viewed by E! News, the judge notes that the couple's initial filing has been, quote, granted in part and denied in part, and its stipulations will cover both the Lively and Baldoni parties in the ongoing litigation.
But here's where it gets even messier. Anna Kendrick, who has had past tensions with Blake, was asked about the lawsuit at a recent press event, and instead of answering, she completely ignored the question, walking right past reporters without a word. And we all know, in Hollywood, silence often speaks louder than words. Meanwhile, other stars, like Priyanka Chopra and Zendaya, have taken to social media to share cryptic messages about truth always coming to light, which some fans believe are subtle jabs at Blake. And let's not forget Justin's close friend, Gina Rodriguez, who recently posted, "Justice prevails, always." Could she be hinting at something deeper? The drama just keeps unfolding.
Listen, the court of public opinion is weighing in, and people have some very hot takes. I feel like more people are leaning more towards Baldoni with the more evidence we're starting to see come out. But when the judge said that he wanted to expedite the trial and make it earlier, everybody online was like, please, we're following this and we don't want to wait another year.
But beyond this single lawsuit, this whole situation exposes a bigger problem in Hollywood. We've seen time and time again how the industry's obsession with power, reputation, and control can lead to shocking betrayals and cutthroat behavior. From Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard to Britney Spears' conservatorship battle, Hollywood's dark side has been on full display in recent years.
Doesn't it just come down to, was Blake Lively harassed on set in violation of an agreement that your clients made? And was she disparaged online in violation of an agreement that your clients made?
Let's take the first part for a second. In the CRD complaint and in the first filing of the lawsuit with the Southern District of New York, the allegations and the complaint say once the 17-point list was agreed to, everything from then on was fine. There were no issues. So when you talk about on the set, all of the sex scenes and all of that took place after the 17-point bullet list was agreed to. So even in her own CRD complaint and in her own initially filed complaint, it says that everything was fine from that point on. So now we're really limited to nothing more ultimately than was there a smear campaign.
But this case introduces an even more chilling layer. Allegations that a CIA agent working with Blake Lively has been using covert tactics and weaponizing political ideology to shift the narrative in her favor. According to insiders, this agent has allegedly been working behind the scenes to manipulate public perception, using media influence, political rhetoric, and targeted smear campaigns to sway the court of public opinion. If true, this raises serious questions about how deeply embedded these tactics are in Hollywood's power structure.
The ex-CIA agent working for Blake Lively is using tactics to divide and conquer as new articles come out, sort of weaponizing the political ideologies that might be trying to dismantle beliefs involved in this case. What does that mean? They're trying to keep us fighting with each other, not with our eyes on the prize. And again, this is to find out if Blake Lively's discovery would be allowed, or if she'd be, her plan was to say, due to the PR nature and the salacious tendency of people to pick up on every part of a story, we don't think we should have to present some of our text messages and discovery with our high-profile clients, that being Taylor Swift and whoever else. Some people say Bradley Cooper and whatever other friends of Blake Lively might get sucked into this. So that's what the protective order request was for. Justin Baldoni's side argued that they think that she shouldn't receive any preferential treatment because she's famous. And we need to see all this information. We'll redact it, we'll keep it from the public, and they say, no, you'll leak it.
Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively were once considered two of Hollywood's most beloved figures, but now their reputations are being questioned. What does this say about the entertainment industry as a whole? How far will Hollywood elites go to maintain control? And more importantly, who's next?
The Supreme Court has held that it is necessary for the trial court to have the authority to issue protective orders conferred by Rule 26C because of the liberality of pretrial discovery permitted by Rule 26B1. The federal rules of civil procedure provide for broad discovery of information for the purpose of assisting in the preparation and trial or the settlement of litigated disputes. While necessary, liberal discovery also allows extensive intrusion into the affairs of both litigants and third parties. And much of the information that surfaces during pretrial discovery may be unrelated or only tangentially related to the underlying cause of action. This creates a significant potential for abuse. Litigants may use the discovery process to obtain, incidentally or purposefully, information that not only is irrelevant, but if publicly released could be damaging to reputation and privacy.
Whether you're Team Justin or Team Blake, one thing is clear, this story is far from over. Alright, that's a wrap for today's video, but I need to hear your thoughts on this one. Do you think Justin Baldoni was justified in taking Blake Lively to court? Or do you think there's more to this story that we don't know yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm reading every single one. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.